Hey guys, it's Joy from jakeandjoy.com. What's going on? Today we're going to talk about the self-care myth. Is it myth or is it really reality? If that's something that you struggle with, you've come to the right place for this episode of Wake Up Your Badass with Jake and Joy. Today I'm going to be flying solo. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But if you are joining me live, please give me where you're jumping on from in the comments section below. We're so happy to have you join us today. And we're going to share some really valuable information. We come here live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific with an edition of Wake Up Your Badass. We go live a couple other times during the week, but what we want to really do is we want to give you tips that can help you to create an unstoppable life that you love. And if you've been following us for a while, you know that you can count on us for some great tips. Hi, Yvette. Thanks so much for joining us in Colorado. Where in Colorado? My sister lives in Boulder, and I have quite a bit of business in the Denver area as well. So it's fun to have you on. Thanks for being here. And as always, so I'm going to break down self-care today in about 3 parts. And I'm also, even though Jake's not here to annoy, I am going to give you a joke at the end because I always do that. And last week we asked if I should keep the jokes, and we got an overwhelming thumbs up. So we're going to do that. Arvada, well, welcome. Nice to have you here. Great. So let's dive right into this topic of self-care. If you are someone who has a good self-care program in place already, give me a 1 in the comments section below. And if you're someone who struggles with self-care, give me a 2. We're going to talk today a little bit about kind of the myth of what self-care is. A double high five from Montrose, Colorado. Hi, how are you, Miriam? Nice to see you. We're going to talk a little bit about like what self-care actually is, why people don't do self-care. And Yvette, great, we'll jump into some tips for you. Why people don't practice self-care, and number 3, like coming up with a plan that actually works with you. So we're going to jump right into that. Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about this self-care movement that seems to, like everywhere you look right now, everyone's saying, take care of yourself first, take care of yourself first. And when I was growing up, I think my mom did that. She was a single mom of 5. But she always seemed to find ways to get some fun stuff into her life. And I think that for her, that was self-care. She worked as a school teacher. She was a high school music teacher. And she also was a music director at our local church to get some extra money. And then in the summertime, she would flip burgers at the golf course so she'd get a free golf membership. So she was always really being creative, to find ways that she could get some self-care into her life. But I was reading, as I was getting ready for this Facebook Live, I was reading about immigrant families and families from other countries. And this concept of self-care was just like, what are you even talking about? Like, it was all we could do to just, get life together. There's no thought of self-care. And I do think that it is a more privileged conversation, even though my mom did not live a privileged life when she was raising me. I think that she still, in her mind, it was important for her to laugh every day. It was important for her to get out and exercise every day. So I had a really good role model for that. But I will have to say that when you start to get into, maybe you're building a side hustle like a lot of you are. If the business that you're building, your network marketing business, is a side gig and you do something else, give me a 3 in the comment section below. And if this is your full-time thing, give me a 4. Because it's really, if you're trying to juggle a job and you're also trying to build your side hustle, a lot of times it feels like, oh my gosh, where do I have some time for me? So that's like the first thing is like, what does self-care look for you? Great, Miriam. So you're probably a little more challenged to find that time. Now, I've been reading this book, and I've been telling you guys about it, the High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard, and I highly recommend it. I've got my copy here somewhere. It's on the floor. High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. I really, really like it. It's got a lot of information in it. When I first read it, it was, yeah, that's great. You're a part-time side hustler. That's great. And good for you guys for doing that, because actually building a network marketing business or a side business is a form of self-care, because you're building an exit strategy. You're spending, you're not quitting your job, because most people can't quit their job when they first start building a business, but you are building your fortune. You're building someone else's fortune during your working hours, but when you're putting time into your side business, you are building your fortune. So good for you. That is a form of self-care. But I want to go back to this concept that Brendon Burchard talks about in his book, High Performance Habits. And when I first started reading the book, I thought, oh my God, I don't need any more high performance habits. This is going to just be more stuff to do. But in truth, it will. It's a book full of ideas and strategies to help you take your life to the next level without it looking like you're doing more. And he's got lots of strategies in the book. What I recommend is that you choose a couple that resonate with you and then implement those, because if you try to do everything that he suggests, it'll make you crazy. He's got like these lists of 10 and these lists of 5 and these lists of 3. So it's a little bit overwhelming. If you've been reading the book and you found that to be the case, give me a 5 in the comments section below, because I think that it's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's great. It's great, Yvette. So you're a full-time mom, but you have 2 businesses to juggle and your full-time job of mom of toddler and baby. And I know that is it. When I started my network marketing business, I was a single mom. I owned a health club, and I was a single mom, and I was waitressing and working tables. I was waitressing and working my health club business, as well as teaching classes at other gyms, and then trying to stuff this business in. And I did do it. And I actually did have fun. And what you're going to find as you build your network marketing business is that a lot of the activities that you do are fun, and they kind of become self-care. And I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. I'll tell you about the week that I just spent. Hi, Annette. Nice to see you. So Brendon Burchard in his book talks about how in truth, most people spend 30% of their time sleeping. If you think about it, 24-hour day, you probably spend 8 hours a day. 8 hours in that 24-hour period sleeping. Hopefully, maybe you only get 6, maybe you only get, and that's another thing that he talks about, the importance of sleep. And then 30% of your time working. Now, I know that can be a little bit different for moms, especially. And then 30% of your time doing everything else. So it's like what you put in that other 30%, that is where the idea of self-care comes in. So then you have to start thinking about, well, where is my threshold of feeling like I'm taking care of myself? Because for many people, it might just be if I sat down with a glass of wine once a week and had a conversation with my husband after we put the kids to bed, that would feel like, stress relief for me. For someone else, it may be that they need something every day. Maybe they, I don't count exercise as I exercise regularly. And it is self-care, definitely. But it's not like that, okay, what would make me go, oh, Annette, I'm so sorry it's cold in Germany. It's not that cold here, but it's not as beautiful as it was when you were here. But you may have a different sense of what you need for self-care. I just got done doing a retreat with my top leaders in my team, and I've been doing this now. This was the 3rd one that I did. And each one has been pretty different. And what was interesting about this event was that the people that showed up were probably some of the busiest in my business. There were a lot of people who didn't show up for whatever reason. This is a very exclusive retreat that I do. It's usually fewer than 15 people that come to it. But this was especially small. And we did a lot of things that you would regard as self-care that these busy women would not have done for themselves otherwise. We started out with kind of a soiree the night before the whole thing started, and then the next day we started out with yoga, and then we went to a salt cave and did a sound healing, chakra breathing, meditation event that was really, really, really special. And I've lived in Santa Barbara now for over 11 years, and I've been to the salt cave once, but I've never done a class like that, and it's been there all this time. And so it's interesting to me what will take time to do. What will take time out of our busy life to do? So the first thing for you to do is to really assess how much downtime you need. How much? What would quiet time look for you? What would self-care look for you? Identify that, and then the next thing that you want to do is you really have to get it into your schedule. That's like the big thing. You've got to get it into your schedule, and you've got to have an accountability buddy for it, just like you would for anything else that you have to do. So this concept of self-care. Now, we can break this down into, regular like self-care, drinking enough water, sleeping enough, exercising. If you do affirmations or prayer, that you're doing all that. That is all self-care. And Jake and I have done a whole thing on that. We've done a whole video on what a daily routine might look like if you're really taking care of yourself. But this is a little bit beyond this. This is a little bit about Where do you say no? Where do you say yes to things that are going to make you feel great? So, for example, right now, my husband, I've had a really, really, really busy last 2 months of 1999 of 2018. And I was supposed to go to a workshop this coming weekend. I just got done having a workshop and a retreat in Santa Barbara for my team. After the holidays, I put on 2 big New Year's events. And then I did this retreat and workshop, and a friend of ours had a very challenging pregnancy that I was really involved with over the week. And this weekend I was supposed to go to a workshop in LA, and I was really looking forward to it. It's actually the completion of what I've been doing with Elite Marketing Pro. And I really wanted to go, but I realized that it was not in my best interest to go. And so I made an unreasonable request that they let me extend my year with them, and they did. So that's really awesome. So I'm going to get to complete that in April, and that's going to feel really great to me. The second thing that I did was that my husband is always looking for ways to have our family take trips together, and I love that as well. But his idea of traveling is much more extended than mine, and so he wanted to go to New Zealand for a month, and we're compromising on that. I may go for 2 weeks, or I may not go on this trip, and he may do it with his son. So those are all ways that you can kind of look at how can I take care of me. Doesn't mean that you have to go out and expend, there's this big thing right now that all these companies are selling these fancy products in the name of self-care. But it may just mean you going outside for a walk. It may mean that you put your kids to bed a half an hour early at night, and you get to have an extra half an hour just to yourself. And then you take that time actually for yourself to recharge yourself. So that's kind of to wrap it all up with self-care. So first of all, to identify what does self-care mean to you? Number 2, how much time do you need, and what activities do you need to have in your world to have it really truly be self-care? And number 3, how are you going to hold yourself to account for having that self-care? So hope that was valuable. I'm going to close with a little joke that I found on self-care. This woman had posted on her Facebook page. She said, I think that my best self-care would just be to break into NASA and blast myself out into the void. And the thing came back from NASA's Facebook page that said, might we suggest a bubble bath? I thought that was pretty funny. And then one last joke about extreme self-care. A man goes to the World Cup final, and he's got great seats just right in front and center. And next to him, there's an empty seat with a guy next to it. And the guy says, man, can you believe this seat is empty? He said, well, actually, I own this seat, and it was my wife's, and this is the first World Cup final that we've ever missed since she passed. And it's really kind of sad. And the guy said, well, couldn't you find somebody to take the seat, a friend, a relative? And he said, no, everybody's at the funeral. Anyway, I hate not having Jake here to make fun of my silly jokes, but she'll be back here next week, and she's doing something that is extreme for her. She's taking radical self-care and taking this time off. It's been a really busy last couple of months out of 2018, as I said, and so she's really taking this week off to refuel, regenerate, and she will be back in action next week. And what I want to encourage you guys all to do is to get that plan of self-care in place for yourself, but I also want you to get a plan of your business in place. And last week we talked about branding yourself, and we also talked about using online marketing strategies. But one of the best things that you can be doing is starting to work at videos. One of the things that we did on this retreat is I hired a professional makeup artist and photographer to come in, and we shot videos, live videos, and we also recorded videos. And so there's a structure to that you might want to know about. And you can learn the same way that we did with this social recruiting strategy with Kate McShay. And I'll post a link to that where you can get that. It's really cool because it comes along with the attraction marketing formula that they also offer at an additional price, but you get it as part of this social recruiting strategy. And it gives you 3 live coaching calls, and it's really pretty cool, all for under $100. So I'll post a link to that if you're interested. I highly recommend it. And get a strategy in place for self-care and get a strategy in place for making videos in 2019. It was great to have you. I'm Joy from jakeandjoy.com signing off. Until next time, thanks for joining us.